Just a second ago, Peter was there, right in front of Logan. Seeing something so dangerous as to potentially be anywhere in the room with him was starting to make even Logan nervous. He no longer had any sticky light balls to shoot out, and his suit only produced enough light for him to be able to see a few meters in front of him. Peter could see as clear as day down here. They were unfavorable odds, and Logan started to curse himself, thinking about how he ever got himself into this type of situation. A sharp, sudden sound was heard to his right, and a blast was shot from his blaster in an instant. "I don't want to hurt you, Peter. Suppose I hit you now before you've eaten anything. There's a good chance you can't heal," Logan said calmly. His voice was full of confidence, but inside his mind he was panicking a little. As he said those words, groans could be heard once again in a specific direction. When Logan looked at where they were coming from, he could see Peter knelt on the floor, holding his stomach. "Logan, just leave me! I don't think it's safe! Go now!" Peter shouted. The others thought the old Peter was completely gone, lost, but that wasn't true at all. Peter still had feelings, he still had worries, and inside he was still scared as always. Then the sound of footsteps was heard. Out of the tunnel, Logan appeared with a student on his back. He placed it on the floor and took a few steps back. "I know this might be disrespectful, but you are already dead. I promise I will find out who your family is and treat them well. They will live a life of happiness due to your help for as long as I am alive." The two boys continued to run through the town at breaking speed. On the way to the tower, they hadn't seen any high-level beasts. Quinn was now sure of it. With this thought in his head, he was able to freely run as fast as he could toward Peter. He was worried about what could happen, mostly since he was with the others, and worried about what would happen if the travelers were to find out and get involved. Following closely behind, Fex was struggling to keep up. Suddenly, Quinn stopped in his tracks. "What's wrong?" Fex asked. There were two reasons why Quinn had stopped. The first was that Quinn felt that Peter was no longer hungry. "Thank you, Logan," Quinn said under his breath. He didn't know why, but he had a hunch that if anyone could solve the problem, it would have been him. The second reason for stopping was that Quinn could sense and smell a familiar presence. "Ah, it's the teacher," Fex said and pointed. Leo said, "I'm here to search for the remaining students. Your friends who were with you have already been escorted outside to the surface." "Quickly!" Leo shouted. "We must get out of here and run! There is something down here, something incredibly powerful. I can sense its aura. We have to leave now." They both quickly followed Leo closely behind as the three of them ran out of the town and into the tunnel, not once looking back. But his strange actions made Quinn wonder. It was the first time that he saw his teacher running away from a confrontation. The tower they had just left was known as a vampire's tomb, and judging by the site of the building and what was left behind, it was a powerful one. "Didn't you say a vampire would need the blood of one of its family members? It can't wake up, right?" Quinn asked the system, but it had chosen to remain silent. "Answer me!" Quinn snapped in his mind. This time he was insistent and wanted an answer. "Sorry," the system replied. "I was just thinking about the possibilities. But perhaps there was a chance we did wake it up." "But how?" Quinn replied. "The only thing I can think of is the blood crystal. Remember how I said a blood crystal was quite rare? Well, that's because a blood crystal is harvested from a vampire's body itself. Just like how the beasts contain a crystal inside their bodies, vampires do too." "Why didn't you say something earlier then?" Quinn complained. "I thought the same as you at the time, that the crystal would help you get the weapon." The three of them had finally left the town. They had gone through one of the tunnels into an open area with several different pathways. It was easy for Leo to select the path back, as he remembered which direction he had entered from, and he led the two students out. Finally, they were about to leave the strange city and everything that had been found behind. While traveling through the tunnel, it started to slightly tilt upward with no end in sight, and they were unsure how long it would take them to get out. Finally, the end of the tunnel could be seen, and daylight was shining through. Both Quinn and Fex never thought they would be happy to see the sun, but they truly were. The two boys continued to follow Leo back through the forest. There were still many beasts in the forest, but thanks to Leo's ability, they were able to avoid all of them and select the safest path heading back to the shelter. Eventually, they arrived where all the remaining students were. They were staying in the shelter, in the large open space on the ground. The other military staff were taking care of them. "All right, everyone," a soldier shouted. "It's time to gather up. Your Sergeant Leo has an important announcement to make." Faye and him stood in front of them. After Leo had gone after Dell's class and it took longer than usual to return, Faye had decided to make the executive decision to call back all of the students to the shelter. Instead, to minimize the risk, the plan was to go as one large group, while both Faye and Leo would guide them. rather than split them up via their homeroom classes. They would cover less ground this way, and the expedition would be a lot slower, but it would also be safer this way. The first person to arrive was Leo, and behind him, all of the students started to follow. As the other group saw Dell's group, sounds of gasps and words of concern were heard. "What happened to them?" Faye asked. "It looks like they went off trail due to an advanced tier beast," Leo explained. A look of horror appeared on Faye's face as their fears were confirmed. "Don't worry, I already dealt with it before even meeting up with the class. As for the remaining students, according to the teacher, Dell, they were all eaten, and there was no chance the students survived." The two of them looked over at where Dell was. He was currently barging his way through the injured students and going to the front of the queue. As Leo took another step forward, he suddenly stopped. Before anyone else, he could hear the sound of the leaves ruffling from behind. "Looks like we finally made it," Andy said as he appeared out of the forest. The group of travelers had arrived, but they weren't alone. They also brought back Vorden, Sia, Layla, Peter, and Logan. Inside the tunnels, Logan had managed to regroup quickly with the travelers once his scanner was working. After the travelers and students had walked out of the trees and vines, what followed next started to cause alarm in the camp. The large lion-like beast came out as well. "Beast! Beast!" students shouted as they recognized the beast as a powerful-looking one, perhaps at the advanced level. "Calm down," one of the commanders who was looking after the students shouted. "That beast will do us no harm. It belongs to the Bree family." After hearing that name, the students quickly began to calm down. Seeing the stripes on both Faye and Leo's sides, Andre knew straight away that they were the highest commanding officers in this shelter. He approached the two of them and saluted at them out of respect. Faye did the same back, but Leo had chosen not to do anything. "Leo, I know you can't see, but this is someone from the Bree family, and they just saluted you," Faye whispered. "Anyway, I believe these students are yours?" Andre said as he opened up his palm, telling the students to go over to the other side. Sia had the biggest smile on her face as she ran forward toward the shelter and the other students, while the others decided to remain, hoping to hear the conversation between these two powerhouses. "Thank you," Leo replied. "Would you mind telling me where you found them? Perhaps I will be able to search for others in the same area." "You have done enough, so there is no need for you to go out of your way," Leo said. "There is something we must inform you about," Andy said as he stepped forward and handed over a scanner to Faye. They revealed information that they had kept secret from the military, the fact that they had discovered an underground town. Not only that, but it seemed like it was made from a Dalki structure. "Leo, both Quinn and Fex, they're still down there," Vorden said. Logan then handed over the altered scanner he had created to Faye as well. It displayed the information he had found. I can't believe you were hiding this from us. Do you know that if you had given this information to us beforehand, the students would never have been sent to a planet like this in the first place?" Before she even knew it, her fist was already flying toward Andy's face. At the same time, she felt a slash going towards her arm. Images of her arm being sliced off were seen. Quickly pulling it back, she looked at her hand and could see it was still intact. Vorden and the others were prepared for a clash between the travelers and the sergeants. They were ready to help Leo wherever they could. Other than helping them find an exit, the travelers hadn't helped them much. In the end, Quinn was the one who killed the beast. Also, they still remembered how much in debt they were to Leo for saving them from the Dalki. Every one of the students, including the other soldiers, silently watched from the sideline. They were too afraid to get involved. If they did, it could cause trouble, due to the relations one of the Big Four had with the military. The pressure emitting from the two groups was immense. One wrong word or action might make the already fearsome looming presence break out and swallow them whole. However, they were unaware of what Leo thought. Right now, the people in front of him had put the students he was responsible for in danger. "Leo, when we were down there, there was an incredibly strong beast. For now I think Quinn and Fex are safe, but I don't know how long they will survive. They need help now," Vorden said. After hearing these words, Leo's grip around his hilt weakened. It worked. With that, Leo continued to walk into the forest while also carefully stepping his feet over a large root going across the floor. All they needed to do now was wait, hoping Fex and Quinn could return safely. After waiting for an hour, Leo finally returned, and this time he wasn't alone. By his side were both Fex and Quinn. Layla had run up to greet them, and the others were happy to see them as well. "I've made my decision," Leo said. "I'm going to cancel the expedition and return to the academy." "Are you sure?" Faye replied. "Judging from what the travelers told us, The Dalki settlement seems to be abandoned." "No," Leo replied immediately. "When I went down there I could sense it. There is still something there, and it's at least the power of a 4-spike Dalki." Only Leo knew the truth, that the energy that was emitting from the being was similar to both Fex and Quinn. "The winners are as follows. So will the following students please come to the front? Vorden Blade, Layla Monroe, Sia Green, P.O. Blank, Logan Green, Fex Seg, and finally, Quinn Talon." "How did they get the top marks? Our group managed to scan around 15 different plants and 3 new beasts. Are they saying they scanned more than that?" a student complained with a frown. "They must have done that, otherwise why were they called up?" another replied. The students had been called and arrived at the front, but instead of looks of admiration and jealousy, they were all stared down with looks of hatred. Seeing that the students' anger still hadn't been quelled, Faye herself decided to take some action, based on some information she had found out earlier. "Listen up, all of you. There's a reason why these students here have been selected as the winners of today's event." She rummaged through the crate for scanners that had accumulated behind them until she found one in particular. "This scanner here is from Logan, a student. At the time, each of these students had discovered something worth a lot more points than any beast or plant would ever be." After pressing a button on the scanner, a 3D holographic model appeared from the scanner. It showed a recreation of the town that Logan had managed to get on his scanner, the one he had made before entering the tunnels below. "As you can all see, this right here is a Dalki base. It looks like they had arrived on this planet before us. This is the reason why we are leaving, not just because there are some powerful beasts on this planet." Everyone understood that. While looking around, Quinn noticed that the soldiers were busy gathering their things. The same couldn't be said for the civilians who lived in the treetop homes. They stood there with worried looks on their faces, peeking from above. "Why aren't they packing their things?" Quinn asked. "What do you mean? These people have nowhere to go," Layla replied. "They probably spent all the money they had to move here. Even if the military did allow them to use the teleporters and head back to Earth, they would only be made homeless with no shelter or way to earn credits." "But if the soldiers leave this place, then there will be no one to protect them from beast attacks," Quinn replied. Layla remained silent when Quinn said this, and Vorden simply placed his hand on his shoulder. They were both aware of the fate of these people. While Quinn was a little naive, while the students walked through the teleporters, a young girl who looked only around the age of 5 started to wave her hand goodbye to the students, unaware of what was happening. "This world needs to change. The people at the top need to come crumbling down, and when I'm strong enough I'll come back for you," Quinn said, although he was aware that by that time it would probably be too late.
"Ha ha! Didn't I leave some basic treasure of mine behind? I believe it was a set of armor. However, whoever entered the tower might have taken a vital piece. I did leave it there as a reward. Let's just hope they didn't choose the area that covers the crown jewels."
As the man walked over to the podium, which wasn't encased in a metallic cylinder, as he looked down, he blinked and raised a brow.
"Now, out of all the items available for them to get, why on earth would they choose to take the ring?"
the man thought to himself, rather confused. He then walked over to the other 5 podiums that were covered in the strange metal casing. As he placed his fingertips on the cold outside, in an instant they seemed to react and started to vibrate. Each one of them went back into the ground, revealing the pieces of armor that were once there. The helmet allowed most of his face to be seen. It had 2 spiraling red horns on top, with a thin piece of metal that went down to the nose. When stepping outside, he had expected one of 2 things. A parade of people would be there to welcome him back, or a big fight would be taking place. But he saw neither of those things. Instead, all that was left was an abandoned town. Finally, he came across something that looked a little interesting. It was a strange human-sized beast that looked like it had been killed not too long ago. The reason why he found it interesting, though, was that he could sense strange energy from it similar to his own.
"Now why would a blood crystal have been left behind with a beast?"
Seeing this, he felt the same energy as the beast. He thought that maybe his awakening was an accident. The man continued to walk out of the town into the tunnels. The sword was now wrapped around his back, using the chains to hold it onto his chest piece of armor. A step was taken out of the tunnel and into the sunlight. The man was surrounded by nature, and the rays of sunlight shot through the trees and leaves. They were touching both the skin on his hands and the open area on his face. However, unlike Quinn and Fex, there was no reaction to the man.
My skin's a little itchy. It would have been nice to have that ring. Otherwise, I might develop a rash of some sort,"
he complained as he scratched the front of his hand. "Ah!" A scream was suddenly heard coming from his right. Immediately, without thinking about it, he started to dash in the direction of the scream. Eventually, he could see a little girl just by a river, but she wasn't alone. A large snake, nearly 4 times the size of the girl, was on her body with its head held high, looking at her. The snake dashed with its head leading forward. With nothing else to do, the girl closed her eyes and screamed once more as she felt like her life was over. When no pain was felt, she decided to open her eyes again. The snake was no longer there. It had disappeared entirely, and instead, standing in its place was a man in strange red armor.
"It's okay," the man said. "The big snake is gone and won't bother you anymore."
Looking at the girl, he noticed that there were a few cuts on her body. The worst wound was the one on her knee. It was severely scraped, and blood was being drawn from it. The man grabbed her leg and looked at it carefully.
"It looks quite bad, but I should be able to help you with that."
He then spat on both of his hands and started to rub them together.
"Trust me, my spit is like magic."
He then placed his spit-covered hands on top of the knee, holding it down. When the man let go of her knee, the wound had completely disappeared. "Thank you, sir. You must have the ability to heal," she said.
"Ability?"
the man replied, confused. "What's your name?" she asked.
"You can call me Arthur."
Just then, the smile that was on the girl's face only seconds ago dropped. She started pulling on Arthur's arm hard. "Arthur, me and you are friends, right?" Arthur nodded in response. "Then please, you have to help me. My family, everyone here is in trouble. The soldiers, they went away. I don't know why, but they left us all here, and shortly after there was an attack." Arthur could see this was tough for her. She looked extremely young, barely older than 5. He then picked her up with one hand and brought her close to his chest. Sniffing his nose into the air, he could smell it.
"Don't worry, I know where they are."
A sweet smell entered his nose, a scent he remembered vividly. The smell of blood.
Hi, Quinn here. Wondering what happens next? If you want to jump the queue and unleash all episodes, click on the link here and install the Pocket FM app.